It's a great pleasure to have you here, and thank you for your interest in attending today's event. This is the fifth webinar that we organize exclusively for our ambassadors. And as you may see from the title and as you receive the invitation, the aim of this webinar is to give you very, very fresh news. As always, we give priority to our ambassadors to learn from the latest research findings or other developments that we do at CEDEFOP. So today the aim is to actually present you and discuss with you and get your insights on the latest research work that we did on NEETs. And this is where this title draws from the latest research paper that we published. So building inclusive futures, vocational education and training solutions for Europe's needs. And just to give you an idea of what we're going to be discussing in this short webinar this morning, we will give you a very brief overview of what we do on inclusion in general. And then we will be discussing the main research findings. This is a unique research paper because there is no other comparative European study looking into how vocational education and training may empower needs. So we have a unique focus and, as I said, fresh results. We will be enough time to hear to your reactions. We have prepared some questions to facilitate discussion, but we want also to know your questions, any points of clarifications you may wish, and try to have as interaction as possible with you. And then, as we do always, we're going to close by presenting you the news and expecting developments at CEDEFOP and particularly in our team. So once again, welcome to all. People are still coming. So you may know, those of you who are quite some time with us at CEDEFOP, that this team focuses all its energy on promoting inclusion through vocational education and training. And we do this from different angles. We produce research, we identify research gaps. The aim, we are not a simple research institution, as you know. All the research that we do, we tailor it and we present it and discuss it with all key European stakeholders, of course, with the European Commission, with the European Parliament, with our social partners, with European Association of Ed Providers, that we do have also representatives together with us and members of the network. So to a very diverse profile of stakeholders who are key into shaping policies, and this is what we try to do at CEDEFOP through research evidence, to really enable the design of tailored approaches. And as I said, this particular work focuses on needs. Apart from a lot of research, what we do is that, as you very well know, we have developed this online knowledge hub. By this online knowledge hub, I mean the two toolkits that we have on tackling early living and on empowering needs. These, as you may know, when you have navigated in this work, you see that it's very, very rich in resources that aim to support both policymakers and vet practitioners. And we do also plan, as of next year, to even empower this knowledge hub. We aim to have big web developments, to facelift the toolkits, to bring them together, and to create what would be one-stop shop on vet pathways, on inclusive vet pathways. And then it's the amazing community of ambassadors for tackling early living. Actually, I think that we're also would be good for the near future to discuss the possibility to amend the title as we go beyond tackling early living and promoting inclusion and supporting needs and so forth. So I think a title for you that would encompass the richness of work that is being done maybe would be more appropriate. And then we, as you know, organize webinars like that, but also very, very big high-level events at CEDEFOP in Brussels. And we try all these research findings and all this work, as I said, to be disseminated, be discussed, and reach actually key stakeholders. So this is pretty much, especially for you who are new to this network, what we do. That was a brief, of course, presentation. And then we focus to the today's aim, which is, as I said, this CEDEFOP research paper. This research paper has been written by Stephanie Ledermeyer, Michael Papazoglou, and myself, with the great support of our trainee, who is really an excellent example of how young people and young professionals can really make a difference at CEDEFOP, and our previous trainee also, so Zoe and Maria, and also has been peer reviewed by another colleague who used to be in the team but has moved to another department, Anthiki Yakopoulou. A lot of research work at CEDEFOP to be able to be conducted is carried out by external contractors, by research and international researcher teams that we contract in order to be able to do field work and so forth. But this report is exclusively undertaken and written within our team. But we haven't started from scratch to prepare this report. This report draws heavily on all information that we've been collecting over the last years on the toolkit of empowering NEETs. What we did during the preparations of this research report, we were building and enriching the intervention approaches that we have on our toolkit, the good practices that we present there, and in the same time, we were trying to transform all these resources also into a consolidated research paper that could bring together a comparative approach on how VET can actually support NEETs. You see the main topics that this report draws. And actually, another unique focus of the report is that within the vulnerable group of NEETs, we identified two profiles that they are even at a higher risks, and these are female NEETs, and these are NEETs also who live in remote areas. So the added value of this research is to enlighten the difficulties that these particular groups face and their needs, and how we could actually support them. For those of you who perhaps are not so familiar with the European policies and European strategic objectives for supporting NEETs, there is a European strategic objective by 2030 to lower the percentage of NEETs by 9%. Today we are in 11%. One could say that we're quite close in the next 4 years perhaps to reach this objective. However, from our experience, this is quite unlikely to happen. But also you may see that actually there is a decline in the number and the percentages of NEETs in European member states, as 12 years ago, we were to 15.7. This means that each member state, each country makes important support and important measures to support NEETs. But I want you to understand that when we talk about 11%, we talk about 8 million people in the European Union who are still in an exclusion status, a total exclusion, not in employment, not in education, not in training. And many of them are totally inactive. So I think this is quite alerting. 8 million, as you may understand, can be the size of a European country, of a small European country. So we talk about one European country, imagine, which is the size and the magnitude of the phenomenon. Now, as I said, there is a decline. Here you may see the target of the EU is this red line, marking the 9%. You may see here which countries are really far from reaching this target. We have 9 member states that actually have already met this goal. 5 are close to meet it. And as I said before, 8 actually of them are really far from meeting it, as they are currently above 12%. This is the latest data that we have. You see 2024, but actually this is the latest. This is from the labor force survey from Eurostat. So you see that this phenomenon is still prominent, and that's why we do our best to try to support them. Now, as I said, countries do their best, but they are not alone. There is a huge, really huge European policy framework supporting needs. Here we put only some indicative policy documents or frameworks starting from 2013 with the so well-known Youth Guarantee and the policy recommendation, and reaching now the Herning Declaration and so forth. So you see that there are plethora of European policies, of European tools that actually fund, support, either with funds or with technical expertise and several tools needs. So I should now pass the floor to my colleague Stephanie. Stephanie came to CEDEFOP a couple of years ago, and since she joined our team, she started immediately working on needs. That was not something new to her because in her previous employment, she was at Eurofound, and actually she supported all the work of Eurofound on needs. So it's a pleasure, Stephanie, to give you the floor and listen to the specific focus that you gave to this report. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Anna. Good morning, dear ambassadors. It's a real pleasure to see many of you here today. It's also a pleasure to see that you're very active in the chat. Please keep this going. You actually have the opportunity whenever there comes a question from your side to anything that myself or then in the following Michalis is presenting to type a question, and then we'll pick it up in our question and answer session. So please continue to make use of the chat. So as Rana has already mentioned, the topic of young people not in employment, education, or training is certainly not a new one for me. So I've worked on this more than 10 years ago, which was basically during the peak of the youth unemployment crisis in 2013. And you may share similar sentiments about your own work experience. It's really nice to follow a topic through a number of years and actually more than a decade, because what you can see is you can see some of the more fleeting trends and you can see some persistence in the trends. And two points I would actually like to highlight before I start with my presentation is that I think by now we all agree that the NEET concept really adds to the policy debate. It helps both policymakers but also practitioners. It was very instrumental in bringing across the European Youth Guarantee, which has been rolled out in 2014. So again, we have more than 10 years to look back on what works and what doesn't work when it comes to engaging young people. But there is an important caveat when it comes to the NEET category, which is that it brings together, Rana mentioned this already, 8 million people across Europe. So the first point, and I think you can all agree to this, is that it's unacceptable to have such a huge amount of young people who are not actively building up their human capital. So that's the first point. The second point that I really like to always mention when it comes to needs is that we have such a big diversity in this group. So within those 8 million, you will have some young people who are just waiting for their first job. They have a few months in between education and joining the world of work. So it's very normal that they will be in the NEET status for a number of weeks. But at the same time, you also have people from the other side of the spectrum in this category who, for example, come from a migration background, live in a rural area, have caring responsibilities, maybe are learning difficulties. So those people really accumulate disadvantage. And it's largely for them that we still continue to looking into the NEET topic and that member states are trying really hard to reduce their share of needs. So as I have mentioned, when you look at a NEET topic over a longer period of time, it's very interesting to look at what keeps persisting. And what keeps persisting is this, what you see here on the slide, which is the gender gap between needs. So many of you really come from the educational field. I don't need to tell you about the fact that women typically outperform their male counterparts. This is certainly true in Europe now for tertiary education. I know in vet the picture looks a bit different, but I think it's safe to say that overall young females are more educated than their male counterparts. Yet, what we see persistently, and here the numbers and throughout the presentation, they refer to 2024, even though now we have the 2025 Eurostat data available. This is because it's based on the report, so we wanted to keep it consistent with that. But I checked the latest numbers in preparation for this presentation, and the gender gap still remains at 2.1 percentage points. So what you can see here on the slide as well, and I would really encourage you to go look for your own member state here. Maybe you're already aware of the statistics, maybe those are new to you. Feel free to also share your reflections in the chat, is that across 23 member states, we actually see that this holds true. So there are more female NEETs than there are male NEETs. Only in 4 cases, this isn't the overall picture. And those cases are Belgium, Estonia, Sweden, and Finland. I need to double check if we have representatives of those countries here today, but again, do take the opportunity to join our question and answer sessions and share with us why you think this overall picture of gender representation isn't the case in your country. Next slide, please. Anna, would you go to the next slide, please? Okay, perfect. So Rana has already mentioned a bit about the toolkit, and you have the links both here in the chat, but you also have it mentioned as the source here. So as she has also mentioned, I worked in the past for Eurofounder. What we've done there is we've really produced a lot of reports on needs. Now, what I see the beauty at setup up, and really also this is where the contributions of the ambassadors come in, is that we're connected to the ground. So we don't only look at, okay, what kind of Eurostat data is there for needs, but we also continuously harvest good practices. And I would really like to take a moment to also say thank you to you ambassadors who keep providing us with really valuable information. So with that information, actually, we take the next step and we try to distill really what kind of tips are working on the ground, how can we describe the problem in a nutshell, and then what actionable tips can we formulate for both policymakers and practitioners. And this is the work that we're doing with our intervention approaches, which have also shaped and found their way into our report. What you see here on the side is our intervention approach and the graphic that links to it for helping female NEETs to re-engage with the world of work and training. And you see the most important kind of points about this here on the slide. So first of all, and we have started our presentation with that, we look into the data. And when you look into the data on female NEETs, the first thing that really sticks out is that the majority of female NEETs actually are in that category because they have caring responsibilities. They have caring responsibilities within their family, either for elderly members of the family, but most often actually for their children. So it goes hand in hand with the second point you can see here on the slide, which is the necessity, and it's really necessity to make sure that both access and affordability for childcare provisions are given. And the next point also links to this, because once you understand this, you also need to understand that those female NEETs, in order to really provide them with valuable options for their re-engagement, you need to provide them with flexible pathways. And I'm sure that some of you are more familiar than myself with flexible pathways. Again, please join our question and answer session where you can share your experiences with us. What we have also seen, especially in recent examples of how female NEETs are specifically targeted, is that it needs a package approach. One size fits all, I think it's really standard now to hear doesn't do the job, and it's the same here. But I think for me, really, the opposite for one size fits all is to really tailor an intervention, to individualize it, and actually to see the individual behind the problem. So mentoring and empowering initiatives are really interesting in this respect. And then also last point that we come across more and more often is that those partners are already working with female disadvantaged females and from disadvantaged communities are often the right ones to help you with outreach. So you have women's organizations, you have organizations who deal, for example, with migrant women and their communities. You have organizations which really target young women when they have questions about, all right, which direction should I take in the labor market? So it can be really fruitful to engage them whenever you design or retarget policy initiative to female needs to increase the effectiveness of what you're doing. Hannah, if you can switch to the next slide, please. Okay, last but not least, and this is more exemplary. I don't want to go into detail here. I would like to mention that in the past, we had the opportunity to invite also to webinars. The first one, for example, the Polish outdoor learning. Last year, we held a similar webinar, and the program coordinator was here to reply to questions. It was very interesting, very inspiring how this practice actually uses alternative pedagogies which are translated into outdoor learning in order to encourage potentially discouraged women once they want to re-access the labor market after having had a child. The numbers you will realize here are quite small in the engagement, but they really made a big effort in order to have a well-rounded project, which also included, and this is very important for our toolkit actually, to look into what are the key success factors. That's always what we're looking at into good practices. It's not just there has been an initiative and here there has been an initiative. No, we really vet what we're harvesting in terms of good practices of why has it been successful and how can that be repeated elsewhere. And then you see on the right hand side an example from Digit Her, and I see on my screen also Daniel, who comes from Generation, the organization we have cooperated with time and time again, for example, in the framework of our Brussels seminar, which took place last June, so pretty much a year ago, and was also on the topic of needs. I mention it specifically because I feel that after a very strong initial interest in the topic of needs, so like I mentioned around the year of 2013, for the next maybe 5 years, the topic is again very high on the agenda. We held this seminar in cooperation with the Polish presidency of the Council of the European Union, and I can tell you we had to actually physically bring in more chairs into the meeting room because there was such a high interest from policymakers to learn kind of what is the involvement about needs, because by now everybody seems to be aware of the importance, seems to be aware that when young people are out of the labor market or training or education for an extended period of time, they will experience some labor market scarring. So it's really best to actually prevent and to intervene, like the Youth Guarantee, for example, does within 3 months. All right, Hannah, if you want to switch to the next slide. So as I mentioned initially, we're shedding specific light on female needs, but also needs coming from rural areas. And you see the statistics here. Again, it's a story of persistence. So like for gender, there has been a gap between urban and rural areas. And those young people who live in rural areas, it's just seems to be a fact that they are subject to fewer employment opportunities, fewer training opportunities. They have lower transport risks, and more generally, they tend to experience lower levels of support systems around them. So, like I said, it's a story of persistence, which is why we want to shed light on it, because as I initially mentioned, you have this big heterogeneous group of needs. So it's always good to try to approach it from a different angle and to see what you can learn from it. And if you can switch to the next slide, please. All right, so here on the slide you see the urban-rural divide between needs. And again, I would like to encourage you to look for your member state, read the graph, see if this also reflects the experience you have, or whether you would to add and specify further. I think it's really valid to also mention our role. What we do is EU-level comparative research. So whenever it comes to the member state, you will have a more nuanced understanding of what is happening on the ground. You will have a more nuanced understanding of, okay, what do those statistics actually tell you? And again, I would like to invite you to share your experience with us, because that is part of the beauty of the network of ambassadors, is that we have the opportunity to foster such exchange for the benefit of all. All right, if you go to the next slide, please, Hannah. The presentation logic I'm following here is basically the same as I did for the first topic. So the first was female, now we're in rural needs. Again, we have compiled an intervention logic for this, where we describe the problem area, what is really at stake here, and then we move into tips. Again, this was based on some of the findings that we have from the data, but then also some of the findings that we have from our invaluable good practices. Okay, what can be said about rural needs? I think it goes without saying that it because it's a rural issue, it needs to be addressed at the local or regional level. And what we see and seems to be working is that stakeholder cooperation here and awareness of the problem really goes a long way. What we have also seen, and I would maybe also refer to generation here again, and Daniel, maybe you want to share something about this later on in our discussion, is that there are organizations and programs out there who, as a solution to kind of the rural, not even divide, but maybe call it distance, if you can imagine it as physical distance to the labor market, that can be shortcut and prevented by digital access. Now, digital access is no, I'm going to say, wonder cure, plethora for the issues that rural needs or experiences. They will still experience transport issues when it comes to training, when there's, for example, a dual approach to initiatives. They will still suffer from less effective outreach because there will be less strong systems around them. But what digital access can really offer is that it can connect those people from rural areas and kind of level out the playing field with their urban counterparts. But digital access actually also means that young people need to have the equipment, need to have the connectivity, and also, and this is very necessary, need to have the skills and also the vision. So guidance, which you see here on the first point, really comes back into the picture in steering them towards the sectors and also the companies which offer digital employment. Okay, local partnerships I had already mentioned, infrastructure and connectivity also. Something interesting we came across, and really this unites the two last points, is that in some initiatives we have seen that needs kind of their status have been elevated, not just seeing them as beneficiaries of programs, but rather as co-creators. So asking them more specifically, what keeps you away from the labor market or from training? What kind of offer is not there that you would like to see? And in many cases, that actually leads to, like I said, the co-creation where young people actually take ownership of what is working well and what is not working well. And for example, actively contribute to the local ecosystem by coming up with their startup ideas. Okay, last but not least, Renan, please, thank you. Switch to the last slide. Now, what we have here again is two different projects. And again, I would like to not go into great detail. You can find all the links and we will resend them to you after our webinar together with the presentation. But I think what I would like to do with those good practice examples is really to also illustrate the big kind of bandwidth that we have in our toolkit. So you have small scale programs like you've seen from the Polish example for female needs before. And then you have projects like this where thousands of young people have actually been targeted by remote working or by the back on track practice. Again, what you can see is a holistic approach to needs and how to reintegrate them. So without further ado, if we go to the
Thank
next
you.
slide.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so much. I think you gave indeed the flavor and the key highlights of this report. And of course, as I said, we will have time to discuss with all of you. Now, I wish to give the floor to our data analyst in our team, who I think he did some magic.
Can you hear me or not? Please let me know. If you don't hear me,
yes, yes, they
can.
Okay.
Now you can see me, you can hear me. So I was saying that, as you clearly understand, this is quite challenging and difficult case to do projections or forecast the future or anticipate what's happening in the next years. But we got our magic ball here within the team, and we tried to have to develop two scenarios in order to be able to draw a trajectory towards the future and have a visual representation, if you wish, of the situation, where we're going, what's going to be the needs maybe, or what policy actions can be planned in order to reach the target for each member state. So the two scenarios, one is a business as usual scenario, which is a conservative one, under the assumption that all member states will keep what they're doing in the past, all policy actions, funding, all activities, exactly the same as it was in the past. We try to have a trajectory towards 2035, first 2030 and then 2035. And then it's a policy-driven scenario, assuming that the closer a country is to the target, to reach the target, the more difficult it is to achieve it. Because when you're closer to a target, what remains not to become a NEET is the really difficult cases, which is even more difficult to move them from this group. So if I go to the next slide, here you can have an illustration of what the business as usual scenario looks like. It's not it's not representative for all cases, because you can see in some cases the past trends indicate a downwards trend. In some others, it's upwards, but it's the business as usual, considering the past trends, what's going to happen in the future. If you see the orange line over here, it's 2030, while the red one is 2035. In some member states have already achieved the target, as Lorena said and Stephanie before. Some are really close. Some will achieve it in the future, in the close future. Some work needs to be done. While if we go to the other scenario, the more elaborated, if you wish, here we set for 2035 a target of 6%, which is a really ambitious target. It's not official target, it's just a scenario. Like assuming that we want to go to 6% to 2035, and assuming that all member states will reach the target by 2035. What's going to be the path they have to follow? How steep is going to be the trend, the downwards trend, in order to reach the target? This more or less give an indication, an idea, if you wish, of how difficult may be to go to reach this target. This is just illustration, just to better understand what's going on. But in terms of policy actions or recommendations, I'm not an expert. It's right here next to me. So Rena will take the floor to keep going from here.
So your magic tricks finish with statistics, then policies?
The policies I told you, I can do forecasting, project the future, draw some nice graphs.
And now it's us.
Now it's you, it's your turn. So I disappear from here like this.
Thank you, Mikhail.
And
thank you.
I reappear here.
That was really nice. That was indeed very, very nice. Michalis, he is supporting the team with his data analysis and magical tricks across all the different projects that we have. That was his first time he was involved in work on inclusion, and I think he was so fascinated that he will continue supporting us in the future. So what does this all mean actually? So here I will present you some very briefly, and we finish, key messages. These are very broad, very wide messages. This is not what we do with this report. In this report, we really, and with every single research, we try to go into detailed recommendations for stakeholders and for shaping policies. But for the sake of this presentation, we will stay a bit more general. So it is very, very clear that when we talk about needs, we don't talk about an homogeneous group of people. We talk about people with many, many different needs and profiles. In our toolkit, you have the chance to see the typology of profiles that we have developed for this group. And you will see there how diverse are their needs. So needless to say that with one-size-fits-all policies, it's not viable. And for in no way we will ever reach the agreed objective, not even the more magic and optimist that we put for 6% by 2035. We need more evidence, we need more data. Many needs are still hidden. It's very difficult to go with the outreach approaches. We need a granular understanding, as I said, of needs profiles, risk, their context, and so forth. Only if we have more evidence and more understanding, we can actually tailor our support to them. Here is where our work in the team comes from the one toolkit, which is on learners at risk and early leavers. We then developed the toolkit on needs. So you see this spectrum that we try to prevent, we try to support learners when they're still at school to graduate, and if this fails, then we try to reintegrate early school leavers back to the formal education. And so also in your charter, you wish to know more about how needs could be supported to go back to formal pathways. And that's interesting, and we may discuss it. So you see that we have this whole spectrum from prevention to intervention and reintegration. And in the report, we give several recommendations on how to do that. And then here we come, we need to understand that within, as I said, this vulnerable group, there are some profiles which are even more vulnerable. And that's why we dedicated the focus of the report to the female needs and to remote needs. And we try to see how and what interventions could actually work properly for them. And then this is the unique focus that we have at CEDEFOP, that we always put the lenses on VET, and we want to see. Of course, we also understand that vocational education training cannot make miracles. There is no ever way that just providing training to these people, you will manage to bring them back to an active member of society. But we know that the most successful intervention approaches are those that they give prominent role to vocational education training, and they combine this with a plethora of other measures, social measures, and many other interdisciplinaries and fields that you also have an expertise. And then here we are, that when we talk about more evidence, more disaggregated data and so forth, this is where it comes, the role that we do in this team with the support of all of you, all these years to try to bring this to you. So I finish here. Thank you so much for your attention. I know that that was a bit intensive. We tried to summarize a report of more than 100 pages and the work of several years into this presentation. And I wish that before we open the floor for your reactions, please, any kind of reaction, in the terms of clarifications, questions, whatever you may wish, I want to take a moment and capture this into a family photo before perhaps some of you may have to leave us earlier. So please switch on your cameras and let's have a family photo that remains as a nice memory of doing this jointly together. So Christina, let us know what we do.
Just smile and be ready. I have to do another shot and then it's okay. It's done. Thank you all.
Thank you, Christina. I think that actually what we try to do through these family photos is to force you smile. So we try to impose you be happy for a few minutes, and I hope you appreciate that. So the floor is open. You can either write in the chat, but I would really motivate you to just raise your hand and to give you the floor and take the mic, present yourself, tell us the name, the country you come from, and the question or the comment or the intervention that you wish to do. So the floor is yours. Yes, Russell. First is Russell, I see.
It is. Hello, colleagues. Nice to see
Hi,
you.
Russell.
Been a long time face to face, but we'll get there eventually. So I'm Russell Hogarth. I'm based in the UK. I've had a long working relationship with yourselves and my European partners for many years. I run an international creative communities group, but my background is I was a NEET a long time ago. As you can see by my appearance, it was a long time ago. I was lucky to get down to the apprenticeship route, which I'm a big supporter of. And I managed to become a successful businessman. And I went into academia very late in life as a result of lifelong learning. Became a university fellow, a community ambassador for my university, and I'm also entrepreneur in residence. And I have delivered keynotes over in Brussels in the past. And in fact, in 2019, the European Commission has picked up my apprenticeship to entrepreneur story and published it on their website, which sat there for about 5 years before we sadly left the EU, but I'm working on that. NEETs, it's a sad case, but in the UK, NEETs have become like a career option for some people, and you can't blame them for that because we've made the benefit system so supportive, and in a way we should do, that it discourages people from taking a lower paid job. And the other side of the coin for us in the UK is because of minimum wage, which needed to be introduced, and because of contract law, a young person has almost got exactly the same rights and can almost have exactly the same pay as a skilled person. So if, like me, you're employing people, you tend not to take a chance on a young person because they've got an unknown track record, they've got an unknown skill base, and you'll probably go for a slightly older worker that's slightly more skilled. So consequently, we've got a whole generation of people that are inactive. Now, what we do here in the UK, and it's part of an organisation I belong to, we have training centres for retired skilled people who come along and work alongside young people, people who are trying to find a skill or be exposed to a skill. But the advice I would give is you need a hook. You need to get young people into a centre for other reasons, because a lot won't come along for training or lifelong learning, but they'll come along for a coffee and cake, or they'll come along to socialise. But you also need to mix, it's about bonding and bridging. It's all right building bonds and bringing people together that are all like-minded, but you need to bridge people together with inspirational role models and expose them to opportunities. It's a sad world, but there's a lot of talent out there. There's a lot of creative people out there, but not many opportunities, and we need to tackle that. And you're doing a fabulous job over there, and you've always got my support. And what I've got is lifelong experience. I've been there, I've been cashing my benefit check. I've been homeless for a while. I was orphaned when my parents passed away. So I've had all the lived experience, but I turned it round. And I talk to young people who don't see a future. And we've got to be honest about this. Some of them that came from the COVID years, they were like 10 years of age when they went through COVID. They're like 16 now, going on 17. And they become isolated. They become tablet and phone dedicated. And they've lost those social skills, those bonding skills, and they've lost the confidence. And that needs to be addressed as well. I could go on, and I'd like to in person one day, but for that, you can chew over that and come back to me by all means. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Russell. That's really inspiring. This is what we actually need in this network, to share these personal experiences and advices that are really valuable. I would like to give the floor to Daniel, and right after Daniel, I would like my colleague Zoe to bring some of the comments perhaps to the discussion here. Okay, yes, Daniel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for, first of all, for presenting this report. And I'm very happy to see that we are very aligned in our work. So for those that don't know me, I'm Daniel. I work for Generation. I am based in Austria, but Generation, my NGO, does not operate in Austria. We are an international NGO operating in 17 countries, 5 of which are in Europe. And just as a follow-up to what Russell was saying, thank you for sharing the story. It's truly inspiring, and we've also noticed with our learners that role models and people like me kind of stories are very successful to motivate them. And actually, a lot of the mentors that we have in our team are people who are themselves long-term unemployed or who had different struggles throughout life. And we've noticed that this is super important for the learners to relate emotionally to the mentors, because the mentors are the people that accompany the learner throughout the entire journey. So from the moment they are mobilized to the moment that they finish the training boot camp and that they're in the process of being placed into a job, and then also tracking what happens after the placement, because we track 2 to 5 years post-graduation if the learner is still employed, if what their well-being is, and so on and so forth. Now, a second point, so we try to remove all barriers when it comes to training and to vet. So this means social barriers, geographical barriers, financial barriers. So our training boot camps are completely free of charge. And related to what you were saying before, between the divide between urban and rural areas. So when we have these initiatives that are targeted, especially at young NEETs and women, these kind of programs are usually in tech, so digital programs, and indeed we make them fully online, so that people from very distant areas where we cannot be operational on the ground, they still have access to our training boot camps. And this has proven to be very successful. Also, when it comes to mobilizing people, we have concluded partnerships with a lot of local NGOs. So this was particularly successful in Spain and in Italy, so that we gain access to these people that otherwise would not know about us. They wouldn't know that, oh, they can apply to a training, a completely free of charge training bootcamp. So through our partners who have access to these people, who know them personally many times, they can become participants in our bootcamps. So again, just as a follow-up to what you were presenting from the report. Yeah, and actually many other comments, but I will stop here for now, and then maybe I will follow up later. Thank you.
Daniel, thank you so much for your input, and also I take the opportunity to thank you so much for systematically sharing the work that you do in Generation with us and being so active in the network. So that's really what we aim for, and thank you for that. The same applies to Russell and to all of you, actually, for being so active. And it's really like, I mean, we do all this work and we feel that we do it for you and with you. So this engagement, it means a lot to us. Right, so if I would like to give the floor now to Zoe, because it's important that you also listen to our young trainee in the team. And Zoe, please pick some comments, please pick something, or even your own input to enrich a bit the discussion.
Yes, thank you, Rena. Thank you, first of all of you for coming and for being so active this morning with us. This was a very rich presentation by our 3 experts who were writing this report, collecting all the data, making illustrations, as Mihalis showed you, with some very complex graphs, which he can also explain further if you would need more clarifications in terms of how it was developed, what types of forecasts we're doing, and what we are trying to show with these types of models that we develop here. Thank you so much to Russell and Daniel, who have already presented their own insights from the work they have been doing, from personal experiences as well. Russell, this was very inspiring. I've picked up many different themes that come from your responses. So a big aspect is digital, awareness, readiness, offering flexible pathways for young people in distant locations, but also women who have caring responsibilities to connect from their homes. I would like to add an aspect that just providing digital resources or making something online does not mean that people can access. So we need more equipment to reach people in remote locations. That means having good networks. That means being aware of these opportunities as well. So it's not just offering all material content, having it there online, but it's also outreach. It is also showing people in remote locations, showing women who have other engagements, other responsibilities, why it matters, why is it worth for them to engage in these types of activities. So very, very interesting comments coming from you two, Russell and Daniel, and much more can be said to it. I'm looking at the chat, as Rena said. I can see a very interesting comment by Ivana from Croatia, and it touches a bit on what I previously said on social services that have to kind of be an overlying support to both education and employment programs. And it's also about sustainability as well. In the report, we mention how important it is to include digital and green skills in the new VET programs that are especially targeted to re-engage young people to education and training, how both the labor market and so the educational and training programs, especially VET, have to also adapt to the new climate and environmental responsibilities and engagements and imperatives. And so this is also a very, very interesting point if Ivana would like to take the floor, or anyone else working on more sustainability, urban sustainability programs as well.
Hello from me. I can elaborate a bit. What I meant here is perhaps connecting, or in the future considering some significant connection with other programs in order to make a stronger reach, or to reach communities that are underdeveloped or need more support. That was my basic the idea behind the thought, because I know for example, I am an expert in the URBAC program, which is focused on sustainable urban development and a field of education and gender equality, social inclusion, and not only gender equality, but also youth is there is a strong focus on those issues. So I see a lot of potential in this, let's say, possible cooperation. That was the idea. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ivana. Exactly. It's if we're organizing a webinar, but no ambassador knows about it, then we will have no one. So it doesn't matter only to have the offer to offer these programs, but the programs have to reach the target groups. And this is a very big gap that we can observe there in terms of offer and uptake. The offer sometimes is there, but the uptake is very low. And it is because of all these constraints that are linked to the underlying difficulties and challenges that these vulnerable groups inside an already vulnerable group, which our NEETs specifically face. Absolutely. Maybe if I can steer up the discussion with maybe asking you some questions and then seeing if anyone wants to share anything with us. If there's no one who has something on the spot that would like to share, we could also do that. So, for example, you've already talked about social inclusion, Ivana, and the gender issue, gender differences. So, does anyone else have any observations that they have seen from their work, seeing any problems, differences between female and male needs that they help, that they support, or young people, and what has been proven to be effective when you work with specifically women, young women, or young men? Maybe someone has an experience in that area as well.
While people may be thinking, and Russell will give you the floor, I just wanted to remind you at this stage, because it associates with please don't forget to share with us your good practices. Please don't forget, when you even start working in a project, in a program, that you may let us know that you start being involved in this, so we can follow up and we can try to give it the highest visibility possible. So Russell, yeah, the floor is yours, and Zoe, please go on with the facilitation.
Yeah, thank you. I'll keep it brief. So my experience has been, and often this sort of highlighting the gender differences and employment for all has actually backfired on us in some respects, because we've had jobs that have been front of house jobs, whether in restaurants or whether in business, that have usually, for me, been a female role. And I preferred that, because for me, when I'm greeted by a female who's very kind, very generous, it kind of reflects my business straight away. And I'm sorry to say this, but the female role tends to come across straight away as somebody that is caring, and there's a nature that's sort of almost radiant, and that suits a certain position. But now we've been told that we can't do that. It's got to be a male or female, and we've now widened it so much that we sometimes put the wrong person in the wrong job, and people that would be more suitable to that role that don't get it. Now, I'm probably not making a great deal of sense, but it sometimes happens that we're missing great opportunities of actually using some of the skills that we have that we were born with, and some of those are communication skills. And I've got people that have worked for me in the past that you walk in and it's almost if they've generated the business straight away by their personality, by their appearance. And you might get a young lad whose appearance isn't very good, and he's not that bothered, and he's not that careful about the way he actually comes across, and it lets the whole business down straight away. So I think in some ways we're in danger of generating a divide. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Indeed, gender stereotypes about jobs specifically can hinder some people who would be perfectly fit for one job to enter it, because we think that women have their nature and they're necessarily better at communication or better at, as you said, working at reception works or other positions that are in direct relation to a client. But this does not necessarily reflect a specific person's skills or education or experience even, and it can further keep women in lower paid work jobs as well, or keep women outside of other interesting positions. I think Daniel is first. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you very much. So even if I'm not directly involved in placement, I know from our placement teams and from our mentors that our female learners struggle with the lack of confidence a lot, something that some of our male learners do not. So this is a pattern that we've noticed, that sometimes even male learners tend to seek job placements which are kind of higher than their experience that they have so far, whereas for women it's the exact contrary. They think that their skills are not enough even for entry-level jobs, and this is the case especially for tech. But it's not just about females actually. So because we have various initiatives that are very targeted. So first of all, we've noticed that our targeted initiatives are also the most successful. So by targeted, I mean we have initiatives that are for young needs, initiatives that are just for female needs, initiatives which are for mid-careers, so people over 45 which have been long-term unemployed. And we see this kind of lack of confidence also when it comes to mid-careers. So people who have been unemployed for, let's say, 5 years or 10 years, and who feel so disconnected from the labor market and from the skills that are needed today, such as AI, that they are afraid to even register for a training bootcamp, or once they have graduated from the training bootcamp, they are very afraid to apply for jobs. So they need, these people need more tailored approach by the mentors and by the coaches. They have to work way more with these people than many times with young males. So this is something that we have indeed noticed.
Very interesting, Daniel. This has been backed up by science, even, how men are more risk takers. They're also better at, marketing themselves, aiming higher, or just, aiming higher and then trying to see where they land, while women sometimes have lack this confidence, especially even though sometimes they have all the skills or even more. So it's very, very interesting. You mentioned that. And then also on targeted approaches, this, once again, your experience at Generation once again confirms the research that shows that when an approach is targeted, it has a clear target group, and it has adapted methods that are used specifically for this target group, it works better. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think Monica is next. Hi, Monica. We cannot hear you. Sorry. Thank you. Yes, that's good. Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to speak about an aspect which is important in my country. It's related to financial barriers, because many of NEETs want to go to school, but they cannot afford transportation. They don't have money for food. They don't have money for clothes, for books, and so on. And this aspect must be taken into account, because it's important to do something in this direction. They want to learn, but they don't have money in order to learn. Even if education is free, there are other costs which they cannot afford to buy these things. And this is why this aspect is important. And in Romania, there are many NEETs with learning disabilities, and we don't have enough psychologists. We don't have enough support teachers to help them um, to handle these learning disabilities. And maybe this aspect can be taken into account in order to do something for them. But like I said, this is specific for Romania. I don't know if these aspects are specific to other countries too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica. I do not think this is the case only for Romania. In fact, the report, the research paper we produced shows that the biggest barriers are structural barriers. So it is underlying inequalities, socioeconomic inequalities, migrant profiles, other different ethnic backgrounds that can hinder participation. And what you said was very interesting is that even when education programs, training programs are free, there are hidden costs that hinder people from participating in them. So it's very, very important. This is why the approach of the research paper is a holistic one. So it says that VET can have a very important role. Providing good quality VET programs is key, but this is not a panacea. So if VET programs, education training programs, are not accompanied by holistic social policies, employment policies, and educational policies, then there will always be people that are falling behind, unfortunately. I see Julia has raised her hand also. Perfect. Julia from Belgium, if I'm not mistaken, has shared in the group chat a project she's working on, which seems very, very interesting. And I'm very glad. I think now she wants to talk about it. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you very much, Zoe, and good morning to everyone. I'm indeed Julia from Belgium, representing the European Vocational Training Association, a network of vocational education and training providers. And yes, indeed, this is actually a very interesting project that has been funded by the program Digital Europe. So it's not our usual Erasmus Plus project. It's a project that has, first of all, it was the only funded project under that call, meaning that it has a special interest for DG Connect. And it's actually focusing on attracting more women in digital sector. The interesting part of this project is that it doesn't focus only on one educational sector, but it really aims at analyzing the leaky pipeline going from the early childhood education until women that are already on the job and that are experiencing obstacle in advancing their positions, upgrading their positions. So the project itself has analyzed this, and we have developed an index to identify what are the main obstacles and to benchmark also them across Europe. This is the work. This work has been done last year, and if you check the website, you will find this index and you will find the analysis. But another interesting part of this project is that we have set up the Women in Digital Forum. That is a forum of experts from different sectors, from the educational sector, from the business sector. There are a lot of women that are participating, which are working in the digital sector, and they are contributing to the discussion around thematic working groups that are focusing on these different parts of the leaky pipeline. So we have set up 6 thematic working groups. 2 of them are specifically addressing VAT issues. And these thematic working groups are actually not only collecting best practices that are also included in the repository of that you will find on the website, but they are also developing policy recommendations that have the objective of influencing the policy debate and support the European Commission in taking measures to increase the participation of women in the digital careers, in digital studies and digital careers. So I really encourage you to have a look at it. Unfortunately, the project will end at the end of this year, but our aim is to keep the forum alive and sustainable during the next years too. There is an interesting event that is the Women in Digital Annual Summit. We have organized one last year here in Brussels. This year it's going to be organized in Ireland. We have already dates, so if you're interested in participating, please let us know. It's around the 2nd week of October. Now I can't really remember the exact date, but it's on the 2nd week of October in Dublin. And it's usually the event where we have the chance to connect with all the participants of our thematic working groups, all the members of the forum, and also speakers that are relevant experts in the sector. So yeah, this is a little bit the story of the women in digital. And I mean, if you're interested, please feel free to connect. I will also share again the link, of course. Thank you.
Julia, thank you so much.
Time.
It's lovely to see you today. Thank you. And remember that the toolkits are actually is a platform that can keep these programs alive. So knowing that it ends next year, this is what we try to do. We try to analyze and understand the key characteristic of each program, what makes it successful, what new brings the deliverables, and by making it a good practice within our toolkit, then we really give sustainability to these programs. So feel free to share with us everything. Also, we used in the past to receive more invitations that we were sharing around. So please, when there are events that you think these are related to the work and the profile of the ambassadors, let us know and we may disseminate the invitation to the network. So thank you, Julia, for mentioning this forthcoming event.
With pleasure. Thank you very much.
I can see somebody. I can check it well, but
yeah. Thank you, Rena. And I wanted to say exactly the same thing as Rena said. So Julia, thank you so much for sharing this with us. We would be more than happy to feature this as a good practice and again, make it sustainable, have it for forever on our toolkit, but also not just as a good practice. If you have any specific publications that are policy recommendations, we can add it separately as a publication as well, featured as a report, as an analysis. So also think of this as well. Thanks again. Passing on the floor to Mr. Kyriakos. Thank you so much.
Hello, hi everybody. It's been a pleasure seeing you all. I would like to mention about a new project that we have been participating with my VET Institute, it's Saeka Galeo. The project is called Support Sphere and is an Erasmus KA220 VET cooperation partnership project that aims to strengthen basically the career guidance, mentoring and the learning support systems in the vocational education and training area. And the project focuses on preventing young people from becoming NEET. by improving the capacity of the VET institutions to provide inclusive and learner-supported. So the main objective is basically to improve the career guidance services within the VET institutions to support the learners facing social, economic, or personal difficulties and barriers, and to reduce the early school leaving and disengagement that usually is happening. And we want to strengthen the cooperation between VET providers and social services and youth organizations, policymakers that can equip the trainers and the teachers and the mentors and the counselors with various practical tools and methodologies. And we're targeting mostly on VET teachers and trainers and career counselors and mentors. And the project result of this project, which is going to be finalized in November, is we create a support sphere handbook. We did a training program for VET staff that is useful, a digital e-learning platform, and a career self-evaluation tool. And we try to help VET students to participate, and that was very encouraging. This consortium was countries from Greece, Italy, Spain, and Belgium. And we will be very happy to show to you in CEDEFOP in the coming days, month. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I would also like to note that Support Sphere is also a good practice featured in our toolkit. We're very happy to have it in our toolkit and to see also the handbook that will appear in November, and keep track of the following activities that will take place in the upcoming months. Really looking forward to it as well. I see Valentina has also shared a link in the chat. Valentina, would you like to take the floor to further explain what you have shared with us? Or if not, maybe even write in the chat something to explain a bit more. That would be nice.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm sorry, I apologize that after one meeting to go to another, so it's now. Sometimes it's happened. No, we in the past I've had the COVID focus on inclusive, and after there we designed almost 2 years that we are every month we're organizing webinar series and different topics. So every month topics focus on inclusive and well-being. And the speakers are from different countries. It's not only in Europe, also we try combined with EU institutions or outside of Europe to bring a good practice. So it's really interesting if someone's also interested to sharing some good practice or not projects, but maybe publications that so far been done. So it could be nice if you contact me or actually Paolo Nardi.
Very interesting. Thank you very much for sharing this with us. I think we have some minutes left for the discussion as well. So maybe I could ask another question now for the 5 remaining minutes before we move on to concluding remarks by Rena. So you've seen the key messages we have presented. You see the research, the analysis that we did with the research paper. We would like to ask you now, so what do you think should be better done to better support needs in the future? What do you think is lacking? Is it a lack of funding? Is it a lack of programs? Is it insufficient and ineffective outreach? We would like to hear, so what do you think is the priority for improving what there's already in the market, let's say? I would be very curious to hear.
I would suggest, Zoe, that our ambassadors are writing in the chat a keyword, something that they are thinking should be key to be done for the next
Good idea.
year.
Perfect.
Yeah, and then maybe we may briefly comment. So take your time and just write in the chat. Zoe, please repeat again some options. More funding.
Yes, more funding, more programs, more tailored approaches, more flexible approaches, more social and economic support, financial support.
And from your own experience, I mean, for example, many of you have been involved in Erasmus Plus programs. As Julia said before, unfortunately, next year this comes to an end. What happens after that? How these good practices are bring forward? How do they are streamlined and so forth? So think also challenges that you also face in your work and how you think that you could be better supported to make a difference and support needs.
I can see already many people talking about funding. Funding is key, especially in education. It's never enough, and some other sectors sometimes tend to get the priority funding on state level, but also EU. So very, very important. I can also see, which is very interesting, intersectionality. So looking at multifaceted problems, many factors impacting these types of phenomena, causing people to become NEET. And I can also see more cross-sector cooperation by Julia, very, very important as well, as we said before, also linking education to employment, to social support, social services, and also civil partnerships, civil organizations. Russell has his hand up. Yes, Russell.
I don't write in the box. I've not got the skills to do both, I'm afraid. For me, it's finding creative ways to address the challenges we find today, and getting people off the streets and giving them a purpose and helping them to thrive and not just survive. And I've mentioned it already about inspirational role models, and I think lived experience matters. And listening to people that have been through the same experience as the young generation who have struggled and come out of the other side is so important, because they don't see that, they don't get that often in the social network of people.
Very important. I'm going to keep this sentence you said, getting people off the streets. There needs to be less distance between the programs offered and the people to which these programs are targeted. These people need to feel like this is for them. They can take advantage of it and they can reach their full potential. But they should also have all the equipment, all the tools, all the support to achieve that. This is very, very important. And I say a last message from Egle, policies that focus on better school to work transitions. This is very, very important, exactly, so that young people, 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, once they finish high school, they can have many options. They can look at them, they can see them in an optimistic way, and they can see them as feasible for themselves, for their own personal cases. And this is also where having access to people with lived experiences who are close to them, can talk to them on an informal level as well, give advice, share experiences. This is also key to that. Thank you all so much. I think we can wrap up the discussion section here, unless there's any other burning questions or anyone really wishing to share something else. But
I see hearts being shared and
yes.
smile, which is equally important with good practices. So I think it's important that we conclude soon. So yes. I wish to let you know the very nice next steps. So what we are doing now is that we are updating the intervention approaches of the Early Living Toolkit. Half of them are already updated, available online, and we continue updating the content. That's because actually, I think, if I'm not mistaken, next year we will celebrate the 10 years of this toolkit. So of course, we didn't leave it 10 years without updating, but we felt the need again, after we did an update a couple of years ago, to go through again all the intervention approaches, as many things happened in our society and the economy lately. So we wanted to bring into the newest development. So this is what we do. We plan to conclude before the end of the year, updating all intervention approaches. And linked to that, we have been preparing a CEDEFOP policy brief. This is a particular publication of CEDEFOP, which actually focuses on policy recommendations. And we have submitted this for publication, so we believe that in the next 2 months, this will be available online, and of course we will let you know. This will be a 20-page policy brief that heavily draws from our toolkit. Actually, the aim is to bring the whole theory and logic of the toolkit, how we work with profiles, intervention approaches, protective factors, and good practices, and to bring this into a consolidated publication with policy recommendations. This will be unique because there is no other policy brief on tackling early leaving from vocational education and training. And similarly, we continue enriching the toolkit on NEETs. We've done heavily invested last year, and we concluded this work last year with this Brussels-based seminar, as Stephanie mentioned before, with hundreds of key EU stakeholders, where we presented what we had by then, but now we continue working and enriching with new intervention approaches. Needless to say that we are open that after also this seminar today, that you tell us intervention approaches that you may think that would be useful and so forth, because we're always doing analytical work in order to identify our next intervention approach. And this work on this NEETs toolkit will lead to another policy brief, which is actually scheduled for 2027. In this way, we will be able next year not only to celebrate the 10 years of the early living toolkit, but also the completion, let's say, of the NEETs toolkit and these two policy briefs that we believe will play an important role in shaping policies. So this is what is coming next. I also mentioned in the very beginning of this presentation, for those of you who were not with us, that we're also planning to revamp and do a facelift, Botox, I don't know how you want to call it, the interface of the toolkits. We want to bring them closer together, create a one-stop shop. So this requires a lot of web development and thinking behind it, but this is something that we are considering, and at a certain point, and we may also consult you and propose you a new name for the network that you can also vote, agree, give us your thoughts and ideas. So this is all from us. Let me go to this slide. It's important, if you wish to scan, you will find all the links of our work, all the publications, toolkits, and everything in one-stop shop in this QR code. So please take a moment to scan if you wish. And then something strange happened. I said, let's take a family photo because maybe later on some of you have to go, but actually the opposite happened. More people came as time passed. So I wish, did you scan? Because I will put the slide down, I will put us people, Learner Center, on the focus and ask you, how do I stop sharing, okay? Those of you who had the chance, okay? So please take another big smile to have another family photo with more people who joined us. Smile.
It's done. Thank you.
Bravo, Cristina. Otherwise, we stay frozen there smiling the rest of the afternoon. So, lovely ambassadors, it was a great pleasure to see all of you. Thank you so much for your support, your smiles, your positive energy. Thank you so much to my team that does really a rigorous and very important work in supporting us. Thank you for the hearts that are flashing. I don't know how to do that, but thank you for doing this. Mikhail, Stephanie, Christina, Zoe, and all of you, a big hug. Thank you so much for being with us. Let's keep in touch and have the next opportunity to meet together. A big kiss to all of you. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
It's already.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Colleagues. Bye.
Ciao,
Have a
Irene.
nice day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You too.